Good morning. This is for June 28th, our Bible study through Proverbs. And I just wanted to welcome everybody and hope everybody has had a good week. Look forward to seeing everybody again when we can get together. We have a choice, and that's what the lesson this morning from Proverbs is about, making a good choice. Do you remember the triptychs with AAA? There, most people use either a GPS device or Google Maps now, maybe Bing Maps here now, another um, online application-based uh, routing. But back before we had GPS, we had to use, of course, maybe an atlas or a road map, or even would get a triptych from AAA. How many different routes do you know of to get from one place to another? How do you evaluate getting from one place to another? What kind of roads do you want to travel on? Do you want to get there quick? Do you want to have a scenic route? What kinds of choices do you make when you want to travel somewhere? Well, we are required to make choices daily. Some choices seem to have very little impact on our lives, and others might change the whole direction of our life. We do have choices, maybe too many choices, but we have to choose. Hearing a truth, it demands a response as well, a choice to either embrace the truth or reject the truth. So there's no neutrality. You can't say it doesn't really matter when it comes to the truth. You have to either choose it or reject it. Solomon's plea in Proverbs chapter 4, we are to hear, obey, and not turn away from the wisdom of God, and reminding God's people of the choices that lay before them. Have you ever gotten confused over a choice because you had so many options? How did you make that choice? When we study here in Proverbs chapter 4, we're going to see that all people have a choice to make: follow God or reject Him. Solomon is relating that there is only one choice that puts the believer on the route to righteousness, while the other route ends in destruction. Here in what we've come through so far, we've contrasted between wisdom and riches. We talked about, and we are just wrapping up here in this section B under A, the praise of wisdom, love, and even worthy conduct. We're going to be moving on from this after this next week. Um, this is the last session that we have praising wisdom, love, and this worthy conduct. In chapters 1 to 3, Solomon began to lay out the dimensions of God's wisdom. He even then called God's people to hear and be attentive. He knew that information didn't necessarily mean transformation, and that facts don't always lead to obedient faith. Here in Proverbs chapter 4, the way of wisdom is defined in verses 1 through 11. Solomon is reminding God's people to remember the wisdom of God as though they were remembering the wisdom of their fathers and mothers. He challenged them not to abandon God's instruction, but to obtain its wise counsel at all costs. No price is too high to obtain God's truth. And even further than that, Solomon is calling on God's people to embrace and cherish truth as if it were a precious commodity. When we start here, take a moment, get some paper, and at the top of each paper, we're make that comment of destruction on one side, life on the other. Here in Proverbs chapter 4, Solomon is once again personifying wisdom as a woman. He put himself in the position of a father or a sage, and he delineates two different paths of life, that of following wisdom or abandoning wisdom. So while the Old Testament understanding of wisdom was fulfilled through the law, The New Testament fulfillment is found in a relationship with Jesus Christ. So take that sheet, fold it in half, and then on one side write destruction, and the other side write life. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 11 to 13. I have directed you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in upright paths. When you walk, your steps will not be impeded, and if you run, you will not stumble. Take hold of instruction. Do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. How are information and transformation connected to wisdom? I want to ask, does one of them always lead to the other? What we know, does it always lead to obedience? 2 Timothy chapter 3, but realize this, that in the last days difficult times will come. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, holy. Goes on and on and on. Verse 7, always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of truth. See, there is a difference, and even Paul noted it and wanted to make us understand it. There is always a difference in head knowledge and heart knowledge. So back from in verse 13, what are the three admonitions here that Solomon is giving uh, his reader? Take hold, do not let go, and guard her, talking about wisdom. How does following God and his wisdom lead to life? What happens to our ability to choose the way of wisdom when we don't take the consequences of choosing the opposite of wisdom seriously? Proverbs here, chapter 4, verses 14 through 15. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not proceed in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not pass by it. Turn away from it and pass on. What are some of the instructions that Solomon has given for staying on the right path? These are challenges to stay away from destruction. Don't enter it. Don't walk. Avoid it. In Proverbs chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. For they cannot sleep unless they do evil, and they are robbed of sleep unless they make someone stumble. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. What are some of the instructions that Solomon is giving for staying on the right path? Wickedness leads to more wicked acts. And what examples is Solomon using here to reinforce that teaching? So here, write the two characteristics of the wicked under destruction. Solomon's point is that wickedness is the willful and deliberate activity of the wicked. It's this type of lifestyle that the righteous person, the believer, must avoid. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 18 to 19, we have a contrast between the two paths. Paths of the righteous is like the light of dawn that shines brighter and brighter until the full day. The way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know over what they stumble. What are the contrasts? What is Solomon writing about here? What is he saying? They are like darkness, or like light. Life, it is like the light of dawn. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, it says here, in whose case the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, so that they might not see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. And John chapter 14, verse 6 says, Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. If the path of wisdom is so clear and beneficial, why do so many not choose it? It's because I think that wisdom is a continuous process. It's something it's a long marathon. It's not a quick sprint. It's a long race. It's a long path, and it requires integrating knowledge and uh, lifestyle together. Proverbs chapter 4, we have a long section here, verses 20 to 27. My son, give attention to my words, incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them depart from your sight. Keep them in the midst of your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and health to all their body. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flow the springs of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and put devious speech far from you. Let your eyes look ahead directly, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Watch the path of your feet, and all your ways will be established. Do not turn from the left, excuse me, do not turn to the right nor to the left. Turn your foot from evil. What are some of the ways that Solomon is talking and gives the reader here the ways to stay on the path of wisdom? And on the right side, where you have, if you've done it this way, underneath the column of life, put these commands that you find here, what to do to stay on that path, following wisdom. And I've done it here for you. Incline your ear. Do this. Put away. Look ahead. Watch the path. Do not turn to the right or watch you and turn your foot from evil. What is so enticing about wickedness that it our focus on what is right and good? It's a heart change. On the top of the column there on the right hand side, watch over your heart. Put away. Watch over your heart. It is a heart change that we have to focus on. Staying on that path of wisdom by keeping our eyes focused on Christ is a constant challenge. Proverbs contains many different kinds of wisdom teachings to help the believer understand the importance of seeking God's wisdom for daily living. And as we continue our study through Proverbs, here is a sheet, here is information that we will probably reference back and forth as we talk about this again. These are important types of sayings and teachings in Proverbs and how it's taught, how Solomon put it together. There are proverbs, admonitions, numerical sayings, better sayings, rhetorical questions, wisdom poems, and even example stories. So wisdom is progressive. It's the small daily decisions that reveal our path. Proverbs here, chapter 4, reveals two paths, the path of wisdom and the path of foolishness. We have to change our behavior. And changing our behavior without changing the heart doesn't lead to a lifestyle change. So as we move forward in our lives, can you apply this message, this lesson to your heart? Can you make day-to-day every changes and decisions? Can you see that there are always going to be decisions to choose wickedness or to choose life? One step wickedness is a step off the path. So what actions can get you back on the right track? Father, I do thank you for this lesson. I pray that you will use these words of Solomon, not me, to challenge, to give instruction and guidance on how to stay on the right path. I do pray, Lord, that each person who listens and pays attention here will evaluate their own decisions and utilize God's word as the standard. I pray that you will help us to sanctify our hearts, Keep us clean. Keep our eyes focused and our hearts focused on you. And I pray that you will draw us closer. And I thank you and pray this in your holy and glorious name. Amen.